You scroll through your feed. A funny meme, a friend's vacation photos, a viral video of a cat doing something ridiculously improbable. And somewhere in that endless scroll, your brain has changed. Maybe you don't even notice it yet, but every swipe, every like, every notification is quietly reshaping the way you think, feel, and even live. Aldous Huxley, who predicted much of the dystopia we laugh at today, might have looked at our phones and sighed, not because of technology itself, but because of what it does to the human mind over time. Social media isn't just distracting, it's evolutionary in its effect, rewiring priorities, attention spans, and the way we relate to each other. And the consequences are far bigger than you might think. It starts with attention. Our minds are ancient, designed for survival in a world of predators, weather, and scarce resources. But today, the predator is not a lion, it's an algorithm. Every notification, every ping, every new post is designed to hijack your focus. You think you are scrolling casually, but your brain is being trained. Dopamine spikes, patterns form, habits solidify. And soon, without realizing it, your attention becomes fragmented, shallow, constantly searching for novelty, and increasingly incapable of deep thought. Huxley warned that humans would trade freedom for comfort and distraction. Social media is that comfort, wrapped in a constant, addictive novelty stream. We click, we consume, we scroll, and while we feel entertained, our capacity to concentrate, reflect, and engage meaningfully atrophies. The funny, absurdly relatable part is that we collectively pretend this isn't happening. We joke about doom scrolling, share memes about wasting hours online, and feel smug for noticing our own distraction, but notice that it rarely changes behavior. It's almost comedic in a tragic way. Society observes its own demise while continuing to participate enthusiastically in the process. Humans are excellent at patterns that feel good in the short term, even when the long-term consequences are catastrophic, and the algorithms know it. They are not neutral tools. They are meticulously engineered to capture attention, exploit psychological quirks, and encourage behaviors that maximize engagement. In short, they reward us for being predictable, reactive, and distracted, exactly the traits that make society more malleable. And here's where it gets deeper. Social media doesn't just fragment attention, it fragments identity. Platforms encourage comparison, performative behavior, and a constant chase for validation. Likes, comments, shares, they are small, measurable reinforcements that train humans to equate self-worth with digital approval. We tweak, edit, and filter our own reality to fit what the system rewards, often without noticing that the real world, the messy, uncurated analog reality, begins to feel dull, inadequate, or uninteresting. Huxley predicted a society where spectacle replaces substance, where appearances matter more than depth, and where humans become willing participants in their own trivialization. Social media isn't dystopian because it's evil, it's dystopian because it's effective. It works, and the way it works is both invisible and relentless. Consider relationships. Once, human connection relied on time, effort, empathy, and presence. Now, connection is often quantified in notifications, friend counts, and reaction emojis. Conversation has been replaced with commentary, intimacy replaced with observation. The brain adapts. Empathy becomes shallow. Nuance becomes irritating. Complex understanding collapses into sound bites and GIFs. Huxley would have predicted the rise of a society entertained into passivity, distracted from its own decline by the illusion of connection. We think we are interacting, but largely we are performing, consuming, and responding to what the algorithms reward. And it's not only psychological, it's cultural. Social media amplifies extremism, outrage, and sensationalism because these elements are more engaging. The systems select for intensity. Calm, thoughtful reflection does not go viral. It does not maximize engagement. And so culture itself begins to bend toward extremes. Trends, ideologies, and narratives evolve not according to truth or morality, but according to attention mechanics. Humans, meanwhile, adapt behaviorally and socially to fit these incentives, often unconsciously. And like any ecosystem, the traits that survive are not necessarily the healthiest. They are the most attention-grabbing. Here's a slightly humorous but dark observation. In the pre-social media world, people would fight over land, jobs, or ideas. Now people fight over content, commentary, and clout, often for validation that is transient and invisible. Society has replaced the concrete struggles that defined human evolution with symbolic struggles mediated by screens. We debate, argue, and organize, yet the consequences are subtle, systemic, and almost invisible. Huxley's dystopia doesn't arrive with violence. It arrives with likes, retweets, and curated approval. And while we joke about doom scrolling, the slow erosion of attention, empathy, and critical thinking continues unnoticed. And here's where the open loop begins, because the effects extend far beyond individual distraction. Social media is reshaping our evolution. Yes, evolution, our cognitive and cultural evolution. Traits that the algorithm rewards, reactivity, emotionality, attention-seeking, short-term gratification, become culturally amplified. Minds adapt, societies adapt, and humans, over time, may be selected not for wisdom, skill, or long-term planning, but for virality, performativity, and the ability to survive in a world optimized for distraction. Huxley foresaw it. Entertainment as control, distraction as conditioning, spectacle as civilization. And the most chilling part? Most humans will never notice it. They will feel engaged, entertained, and connected, while slowly adapting to the very behaviors that undermine long-term survival. And yet, humor as always sneaks in. The absurdity is that most of us are voluntarily participating in our own conditioning. We scroll, swipe, and refresh endlessly, complain about the habit, yet continue. We know it's manipulative, yet we click. We joke about the dystopia, yet we feed it. It's a little like watching a hamster excitedly run in a wheel, unaware that it's part of a complex lab experiment. The wheel is fun, the hamster is cute, the consequences are invisible, but the underlying system is designed to exploit predictable behavior. That's the genius and the tragedy of social media. Subtle, viral, addictive, and as Huxley might say, dangerously effective. And if you think this is just a philosophical worry, consider the real-world implications. Productivity declines. Focus deteriorates. Deep thought becomes rare. Relationships become transactional. Cultural attention shifts from substance to spectacle. The systems reward attention-grabbing traits, not sustainable intelligence or collaboration. Human behavior is being subtly, almost invisibly, conditioned for short-term engagement at the expense of long-term flourishing. And unlike Huxley's fictional soma, the drug is free, accessible, and socially mandatory. We consume it voluntarily, unaware that the world we are building is shaping not just culture, but cognition and priorities. And here's where we start to see the existential risk. The human species survives, evolves, and thrives not by maximizing attention to distractions, but by sustaining focus, reflection, innovation, and complex cooperation. Social media, in its current form, undermines precisely those traits. Attention is fragmented. Deep collaboration is rare. Critical thinking is diminished. Emotional resilience is eroded. Huxley predicted a society where spectacle dominates, where humans are entertained into passivity. We are not there yet, but the trajectory is clear. And the most unnerving part is that the systems are optimized for our participation. Unlike natural disasters or disease, this extinction-level influence is subtle, invisible, and cumulative. And because it's voluntary, humans are, in a way, complicit. And yet, all of this is observable if we look closely. The brain changes with habitual use. Cultural norms adapt to reward virality and spectacle. Empathy, reflection, and nuanced thinking decline in practice and perception. Humans evolve socially and cognitively in ways that align with attention-maximizing systems, not with survival, wisdom, or civilization. And humor remains a necessary companion, because if we don't laugh at the absurdity of doom scrolling as the potential prelude to our species' slow decline, we might cry instead. And crying while refreshing TikTok doesn't feel as productive. By now, the open loop is wide. Social media is not just a distraction. It's a mechanism subtly shaping cognition, culture, and evolution. And the next part will explore exactly how this happens on a systemic level. The algorithms, the social feedback loops, the incentives, and the way they collectively select for traits that may accelerate our decline. We'll dig into the psychology, philosophy, and neuroscience that explain why billions of people voluntarily participate in a process that may ultimately weaken humanity's long-term survival. And we'll ask the uncomfortable questions. Are we adapting to social media, or is it adapting us? Are we evolving toward more distraction, more spectacle, and less substance? So pause. Look at your screen. Look at the notifications, the likes, the endless feed. Ask yourself, what behaviors are being rewarded? What attention is being captured? How is your mind adapting to the systems around you? And if you're still with me, enjoying the story, the reflection, and yes, the humor even in this unsettling picture, consider subscribing. Not because it will save you from extinction, that's up to you, but because the more patterns you recognize, the more awareness you cultivate, the more agency you reclaim in a system designed to consume it. And in the next part, we'll go deeper. We'll explore the mechanics, the psychology, and the philosophical implications of a world conditioned by social media. We'll see the ways this technology interacts with human nature, how it selects for distraction and spectacle, and why the species-level consequences could be profound. And along the way, we'll continue weaving in the humor, the absurdity, and the human insight necessary to keep this story engaging, cinematic, and impossible to ignore. It's strange when you stop and think about it. The devices we carry in our pockets are quietly reshaping what it means to be human. They're not merely tools. They're evolutionary nudges, social amplifiers, and cognitive sculptors all rolled into one. Every scroll, every like, every comment subtly encourages certain traits and discourages others. Reactivity, immediacy, sensationalism, and attention-seeking behavior are rewarded, often explosively. Patience, reflection, nuance, and deep reasoning? Less so. And while this may sound like science fiction, Aldous Huxley already sketched a blueprint centuries ago. A society entertained into passivity, distracted into compliance, and conditioned to prefer spectacle over substance. Today, the blueprint isn't ink on paper. It's in code, algorithms, notifications, and endless feeds. Consider the algorithmic incentives. Social media doesn't just present content. It curates it based on your behavior, exploiting the quirks of human psychology. Dopamine spikes when you get a like or notification. Your brain starts craving that spike. Content that triggers outrage, awe, or humor gets amplified because it hooks attention better than calm, reflective posts. This is why every feed is a carefully optimized cascade of distraction. And while we might laugh at viral memes, the system is quietly shaping cognition, reinforcing short attention spans, emotional reactivity, and a compulsive need for novelty. Huxley warned that distraction would pacify the mind, make it pliable, and reduce the capacity for critical thinking. Algorithms, in their cold, calculating brilliance, accomplish that on a scale he could only imagine. Humans are predictable. We respond to reward systems, subtle nudges, and social proof. Social media exploits this predictability mercilessly. We crave approval, fear missing out, and instinctively compare ourselves to others. Platforms amplify these instincts. Every like, comment, or share becomes a micro-incentive, guiding behavior toward what maximizes engagement, not what maximizes wisdom or long-term survival. We evolve behaviorally in response to the incentives the system creates. Traits like impulsivity, attention-seeking, emotional volatility, and performativity are being selected, culturally and cognitively, because the platforms reward them. Meanwhile, traits like patience, empathy, reflective thought, and long-term planning atrophy quietly, almost invisibly. Huxley's warning about the entertainment-driven pacification of society is not a distant prophecy. It's here, encoded in our devices and brains. And the humor, the dark, absurd humor, is unavoidable. We collectively participate in our conditioning, while pretending to critique it. We joke about doom scrolling, share memes about wasting hours online, and still refresh feeds compulsively, often while complaining about our own distraction. We know it's manipulative, yet we click. We know it's addictive, yet we engage. We joke about our obsession with notifications, yet we feel powerless to stop. It's like applauding a magician for pulling a rabbit out of a hat, while ignoring the sleight of hand you're part of. The system works precisely because it aligns with the quirks of our attention, and we don't just cooperate, we volunteer. And there's an evolutionary dimension too. Humans evolve socially and cognitively. Traits that increase engagement, visibility, and attention are culturally amplified. Social media acts as a selective pressure, reinforcing behaviors that thrive in digital environments. Impulsivity, short-term gratification, reactivity, and performativity are rewarded. Depth, patience, nuanced thinking, and reflective judgment are less rewarded. Huxley predicted a society pacified by spectacle, distracted from self-reflection, and entertained into compliance. Social media accomplishes that beautifully, invisibly, and almost comically efficiently. Consider the collective effects. Individually, these changes in attention, behavior, and cognition might seem trivial. A shorter attention span here, a compulsive scroll there, a reliance on instant gratification for dopamine hits. But multiplied across billions of users, across decades, and across cultures, the impact is systemic. Societies are shaped not just by policy or economics, but by the traits that dominate attention-driven digital environments. Humans begin to adapt collectively to these incentives. Cultural norms, social behaviors, even cognitive patterns shift toward what maximizes engagement rather than what maximizes wisdom, resilience, or critical thinking. The species is evolving, subtly and relentlessly, toward traits that serve the platform's design more than the survival of civilization. And yes, humor sneaks in again, slightly tragicomic. The things we once mocked in dystopian fiction, addiction to spectacle, shallow engagement, obsession with triviality, are now normalized, commodified, and celebrated. We retweet memes about wasting hours, post funny stories about doom scrolling, and joke about how glued we are to our phones, all while the underlying behavioral engineering continues its silent work. It's absurd, yes, but also terrifyingly effective. Huxley's vision of distraction as control manifests not in authoritarian laws, but in voluntary participation, algorithmically optimized to exploit the quirks of our attention. And what about relationships? Once connection required presence, empathy, and investment. Now social bonds are often quantified, likes, comments, friend counts, reaction emojis. Interaction is transactional, performative, and gamified. Depth collapses into brevity. Nuance becomes irritating. The systems reward emotional extremes, outrage, spectacle, and engagement over careful thought or empathy. Huxley foresaw the replacement of substance with entertainment, intimacy with observation, reflection with performance. Social media doesn't just distract, it reshapes human priorities, reward systems, and even social evolution. And this is where the open loop widens. Social media is not only rewiring individuals, it's selecting for traits that may accelerate species-level consequences. Attention fragmentation, cognitive shallowness, emotional volatility, and short-termism become amplified. Deep reasoning, patience, empathy, and reflective judgment atrophy. Collective problem-solving diminishes. Cultural evolution prioritizes virality, spectacle, and immediate emotional response over long-term survival and critical thinking. Huxley warned that humans could be entertained into passivity. Social media is achieving that goal algorithmically, subtly, and on a global scale. And the humor, the dark, ironic humor, remains. Consider how seriously we take influencer culture, viral fame, and online reputation, often over meaningful skill, insight, or societal contribution. We chase attention because the system rewards it, then marvel at the success of those who accumulate it. We joke about it in memes, yet it shapes behavior, cognition, and society. It's like applauding a magician while unknowingly performing the trick yourself. The comedy is inseparable from the tragedy, because the mechanisms shaping behavior are invisible and cumulative. In the next part, we'll explore the final chilling layer, the systemic consequences of social media on humanity's trajectory, and why these behavioral and cognitive shifts could have species-level impacts. We'll look at psychology, philosophy, and sociology, and consider why Huxley's warnings about distraction, spectacle, and pacification might be more urgent than ever. We'll also explore how subtle resistance, reflection, and awareness can mitigate the effects, and how humor and insight remain crucial allies. So pause. Look at your notifications. Look at your feed. Consider what is being rewarded, what behaviors are amplified, and how your attention and cognition are being shaped. Ask yourself, are these systems serving me, or am I serving them? And if this journey has been illuminating, even in a slightly terrifying way, consider subscribing. Not to escape reality, but to cultivate awareness, reflect critically, and explore patterns of human behavior that are otherwise invisible. By now, you might be feeling it, the subtle weight of what's happening every time you pick up your phone, every time you refresh your feed, every time you just check notifications for a second. Social media is not neutral. It's not just a harmless distraction. It is a quiet architect of cognition, behavior, and culture, selecting for traits that the platforms reward, amplifying them until they dominate both individuals and society. Huxley predicted that distraction could pacify humanity, dull curiosity, and condition people to prefer comfort over challenge, spectacle over substance. And today, the prophecy is coded into algorithms, notifications, and feeds that feel personalized, fun, and essential. The first truth to confront is that the system works. Social media captures attention because it exploits predictable human instincts, the need for social approval, the desire for novelty, the compulsion to compare, the urge to react. Every notification, like, or comment is a tiny lever on your brain, rewiring priorities, attention, and even identity. You don't notice it in the moment. You only notice the cumulative effect: shorter attention spans, fragmented thought, compulsive scrolling, and a growing tolerance for superficiality. Huxley warned that humans would surrender autonomy for comfort, and here we are, happily trading our attention, reflection, and patience for the dopamine bursts of a perfectly engineered feed. And humor, tragically, is unavoidable. We joke about doom scrolling, binge-watching TikTok, or just checking Instagram for 5 minutes that somehow becomes 2 hours. We laugh at memes about wasting time online, while our own habits are shaped by the very systems the memes critique. It's a little like applauding a magician for a trick while ignoring that you're the one holding the cards. The absurdity is part of the lesson. The platforms are designed to make participation entertaining, addictive, and self-perpetuating. They don't need to coerce us with laws or threats. All they need is our predictable attention, and we hand it over gladly. And while we laugh, the consequences accumulate. Attention fragmentation undermines deep thinking. Constant novelty erodes patience. Emotional volatility becomes normalized, because outrage and excitement perform better than calm and reason. Empathy atrophies, as engagement favors spectacle over substance. Relationships become performative, social bonds are quantified, and collective problem-solving diminishes. Huxley imagined a society pacified by distraction, entertained into compliance. Today, that pacification is algorithmically precise, invisible, and cumulative. And yet, it's even more insidious than individual effects. Social media reshapes the cultural environment, which in turn reshapes human behavior. Systems that reward immediacy, reactivity, and sensationalism create feedback loops. Humans adapt socially and cognitively to these loops. Emotional extremes, attention-seeking, and performativity are reinforced. Deep thought, patience, and reflection are less reinforced. Over time, the traits that the platform rewards are amplified across billions of users, subtly shaping culture and even collective cognition. Huxley predicted that entertainment would replace contemplation, distraction would replace critical thought, and spectacle would dominate meaning. Social media accomplishes this not through overt control, but through incentives, subtle feedback, and cultural amplification. And here's where the comedy and tragedy merge. Humans are excellent participants in their own conditioning. We scroll endlessly, joke about it, share memes about wasting time, and still click. We critique algorithms while feeding them. We despair at distraction while perpetuating it. It's like watching a hamster run in a wheel, convinced it's accomplishing something profound, while the system outside the cage observes with silent satisfaction. The humor is absurd, but it's also a crucial insight. Awareness and reflection are our only tools against invisible systems that thrive on predictability. And consider the long-term implications. Habits form cognitive patterns. Cognitive patterns influence behavior. Behavior influences culture. Culture influences evolution, both social and cognitive. By amplifying attention-seeking, impulsivity, and superficial engagement, social media may be nudging humanity toward traits that favor short-term spectacle over long-term survival. Huxley predicted humans pacified by pleasure, distracted from substance, and willing to trade depth for comfort. The platforms accomplish this subtly, invisibly, and at scale. Every scroll is a small reinforcement of a trajectory that could have profound consequences over generations. Yet all is not doom and despair. The knowledge of these patterns is itself a form of empowerment. Awareness allows agency. Reflection allows strategy. Recognizing how your attention is manipulated, how cultural norms are shaped, and how cognition is subtly rewired gives you the ability to resist, adapt, and reclaim focus. The first step toward survival, personally and collectively, is noticing. Awareness allows choice. And humor, as always, is a secret ally, helping us perceive absurdity without despair, maintain perspective, and navigate the system without surrendering entirely to it. And here's where we see the philosophical depth. Huxley's warning was not only about technology, but about human nature. Humans are susceptible to distraction, spectacle, and comfort. We are drawn to novelty, reactive behaviors, and social validation. These traits are ancient, evolved over millennia for survival in environments far different from the digital world. Social media exploits them with precision. Understanding this is not just psychological, it's philosophical. It is a reminder that human nature, while brilliant, is also malleable, and that systems can harness that malleability for purposes that may not align with long-term survival. And the humor, slightly dark, persists. We participate eagerly in our own conditioning while joking about it endlessly online. We post memes about doom scrolling, retweet warnings, and share content that critiques the very platforms shaping us, all while continuing to engage in precisely the same behaviors. It's an almost perfect satire of human behavior. Awareness does not automatically equal action. Reflection does not automatically equal resistance. And yet the patterns are undeniable. Huxley's dystopia arrives not with violence or coercion, but with our own willing participation, perfectly optimized by algorithms. And here's the final unsettling insight. This is not just a personal problem, it's a collective one. The behaviors rewarded by social media accumulate across populations. Attention fragmentation, emotional volatility, impulsivity, and preference for spectacle over substance shape cultural norms. These norms shape institutions, policies, and collective decision-making. The systems reinforce traits that are entertaining, viral, and emotionally reactive, rather than reflective, resilient, and forward-thinking. Huxley's vision of distraction as a tool of societal pacification is not a metaphor. It's a literal blueprint for influence amplified by technology. And yet, the human mind is adaptable. Awareness, reflection, and intention are powerful tools. Recognizing the incentives, understanding the mechanisms, and deliberately cultivating deep thought, patience, empathy, and focus can counteract the invisible conditioning. Humor, critical thinking, and selective attention are not trivial. They are defenses against a system designed to exploit your natural cognitive biases. By cultivating them, you reclaim agency, autonomy, and a measure of control over your own evolution. Huxley warned of distraction. We can respond with mindfulness, intentionality, and insight. And so, as the final reflection, consider this. Social media is not inherently evil. It is brilliantly effective at capturing attention, exploiting human nature, and shaping culture. Huxley predicted the consequences of distraction and spectacle, and today, those predictions are manifest, not in authoritarian control, but in voluntary participation, amplified by algorithms and human psychology. The species-level risks are real. Distraction, shallow cognition, emotional volatility, and performative behavior could undermine long-term survival if left unchecked. But awareness is the first line of defense. Reflection, humor, and intentional engagement are the tools humans have to navigate a system designed to capture and exploit attention. And if you've been following this journey, reflecting on the patterns, laughing at the absurdity, and feeling the weight of the insight, consider subscribing. Not because a video alone will protect humanity, but because recognizing invisible systems, patterns, and incentives is the first step toward agency, understanding, and resistance. Knowledge compounds like wealth, habits, and culture, and the more you recognize, the more equipped you are to navigate both your mind and the world. So pause, look at your screen, your notifications, your endless feed. Ask yourself, what behaviors are being rewarded? What attention is being captured? How is your cognition being shaped? And then ask the biggest question. Are you merely participating in your own evolution toward distraction and spectacle, or are you reclaiming agency, reflection, and intentionality in a world designed to optimize the opposite? Huxley gave us the warning. Awareness gives us the choice, and humor, insight, and reflection make the journey not just bearable, but meaningful. The extinction of humanity is not imminent, but the slow reshaping of our minds, our behaviors, and our cultures is underway. And the future depends not only on technology, but on the conscious, reflective, and sometimes humorous choices of those willing to notice, think, and act.